St. Louis is pretty much the most dangerous place in the nation per capita. Shootings happen here daily, and there's just about a murder here almost every day. The poverty rate here is 25%, and more than 1 in 3 kids here lives in poverty. And things haven't changed for a long time. In fact, the murders and shootings and poverty is only getting worse in St. Louis. Overall, the city of St. Louis isn't terrible. Almost all the crime and poverty is located in a pocket on the city's north end. And there's also a very dangerous and poverty-stricken pocket just north of the St. Louis city limits as well. Today, a lot of homes in North St. Louis have been torn down because they were beyond repair and abandoned. I talked to Steven, a St. Louis resident who's studying social work and knows a lot about economic development. He wants to learn how to fix struggling inner cities, just like his home of St. Louis. Here's a part of that discussion.
The crime rate's really high, and that gets attributed to the entire area. But to really talk about how bad that one area is, if you were to isolate just the northern half of the city, it would be undeniably the worst murder rate in the entire world. There is no doubt in my mind. Because, like, let's say last year we had 250 murders or something. It was probably close to that. Probably 240. Maybe 190 came from the northern half of the city where there's less people. I mean, by a lot less people. So most of the city's pretty safe, but those areas that are bad they're horrible. And there needs to, a lot needs to be done to help people out and make sure that's not the case.
If you were in charge, what would you do if you were given the key to the St. Louis city's economic woes so that you could go in and you could fix the inner city problems and the crime and the economic whatever you felt you could do? Mm-hmm. Is there one first thing that you would change or do to like make the biggest difference?
Oh man, there's so much, but it would all. St. Louis's biggest issue is crime, right? You have to address the crime, and that is multifaceted. You have to punish people who do violent crimes, like hard. You know, you can't have people just running in and out, and we can get into politics about how I feel about the current circuit attorney. But but you need to make sure that people who harm others, in a violent way, are held accountable for their actions, and need to make sure that kids are given economic opportunities, and that means educational, mental health, given business skills, and sometimes that means looking at your situation. And I've kind of said this too. You almost need to look at St. Louis not as a city that has like a long history, a great history, but you need to look at it as if it's like a new city. We need to start from scratch because something is from the foundation of our city is wrong, because we don't have these issues if we're a totally stable, solid foundation. So build from the bottom up. How do we account for all of these children who are in a bad home situation? How can we work on improving the qualifications of the St. Louis the workforce? Because we have jobs, we just don't have enough people that are qualified for jobs, and so jobs can't grow because we don't fill the capacity that we have, because there's so many people that don't have maybe not even a high school diploma. They definitely don't have a college degree, especially in North St. Louis, right? All the degrees are in the bottom, and then they fill up all the jobs, and there's other jobs that haven't been filled, and there's people that can't fill them. So making sure that you get people more certification, more job training, assist them if they need house repairs. A lot of people own homes and they don't have the money to keep up those homes because they don't make enough money. So, there's a lot. I used to work for a nonprofit that did home repair for free. And they weren't like, oh, I'm going to make this extravagant. It's like, oh, your railing to get in your house broke. Let's put in a new, stuff like that makes people's lives okay and manageable. So it's just starting from the ground up, and then making sure everyone's needs are met, making sure that we're totally funding the programs that need to be funded to ensure the safety and health of our city, and just making sure that people are taken care of. And if that means little things along the way, and putting your own pride to the side for your population, like that's what needs to be done. And that's step one. And it was a lot for a first step.
That is a lot. So one thing that people are fascinated with is like the economics of a ghetto, like why people are broke. How do they get out of that? Well, what's the the reason that we have so many economic disparities in the country, and how do we solve that? Is that stuff that you're studying, all
Yeah,
that? Like,
yeah, that's so I haven't even began the program yet, but I'm pretty well versed in that because my undergraduate stuff, I focus a lot on that too. Um, so I'm that's definitely that's the realm that I'm interested in. It doesn't have to necessarily be like the economics of the ghetto, but as
yeah.
much just like poor people. Why are they poor? How do we help them? And what's the solution? And a lot of people are, like, just get them a job, but it's not that easy. My family's poor. I come from a poor family, super poor. And if people aren't given the skills of how to like manage their money, or aren't given the skills of, how to go to a job interview or whatever, or if they can't find someone to watch their kids, there's no way that they can uplift themselves out of poverty. It's expensive to have someone watch your kids. And if you're the best job you can get is, you're making $9.50 at the gas station. That's before taxes, and now you got to pay $1,000 a month to have your kids watched. I don't know how you totally get out of that. So it's whatever the solution is for that. It's multifaceted, and it's going to be childcare and job trainings, and banking and building communities and sociological advancements, and it's a lot. It's so much that you have to attack to really get out of that. But yeah, that is what I'm studying.
So what about like teaching people when they're 10 not to have children? Like, is that going too far in the public education? Because, okay, so like vocational skills, like people come out of high school and they don't know how to balance a checkbook, and they don't know how to work on their car, and they don't know how to like, do things that you need to do, like life skills. They don't teach you the stuff that the real world is. Like, you got to pay rent, and this is how much it's going to cost to buy a home, and this is how much you should save, and all of that stuff. You don't come out of high school learning that, really. You memorize like capitals and like how to do some algebra, which is not even helpful anymore. So as part of that, like, do you think there's a way that we can like teach kids in high school those skills, plus like counsel them on like, don't have kids, so that until you're whatever age, so that then they get to a point they can actually be like, hey, I know I didn't learn a lot, but I don't have a ball and chain with 3 kids at home where I can't enter the workforce because I made some mistakes when I was 18, 19, 20. Is that something that, like, is there a thing to that? Do they do that?
I don't think so. I think the only thing you can really do is try to make sure that people are educated and they know the risks, and they know how to be safe, and when it comes to sex and stuff like that, so they're not putting themselves in that position. And then I think also just making sure that there are, programs in place, like like there's a big vocational school here in St. Louis. It's Rankin Technical College. And so, a lot of the kids that are going to go through, like, especially St. Louis public schools specifically, which is the consolidated part of the area. It's a lot of poor kids who, and the schools are not great. They recently were reaccredited, so they didn't have accreditation before that. Finding a way for these kids to go from that and then cycle into a decent paying job that's more manual, because maybe they don't have the like educational background, and things of that nature. And just really and another thing too, the St. Louis specifically, a lot of these kids are around a lot of violence, maybe not in the home, but when there's that many shootings in a neighborhood, it's going to be around you. You're going to lose friends, neighbors, family. So having people there so that they can like talk about that and realize, like, okay, well, maybe that isn't normal that it's going on, and work to humanize their feelings, and saying it's okay to be scared. It's okay that you don't like what's going on. What's going on isn't normal, and we can work through this, and you can know better and you can do better. But like I said, that takes years, because that's years of trauma that you have to unpack in the first place. And so it's so layered, because it's so much of like, you need to teach people the skills to be responsible, and how to balance your own life and your own finances and take control of your own situation, while also saying you were just kind of born into a not ideal childhood, and we're going to give you the skills now so that you don't repeat that cycle. It's a layered conversation, and so you need to attack it from every angle, or else you're just not going to make strides at all.
So are they doing that? Are they trying to, what you said at the end, where they're trying to teach people, like, you know, you were born into an unfair circumstance. Here's how to get past that. Like, are they counseling kids? Are they giving them, how do you do that?
Right now there's a program that's being done. I think it's called Cure Violence. And it's not exactly what I'm saying, but it's teaching people to like not respond to violence with more violence, which they hope, you know, has a reverberating effect of like, okay, well, now that I know this guy killed my friend, but I'm not going to go and kill him. Like, I'm going to do something else. You know, I'm not going to, and you hope that has a pervasive effect. It's not, I don't think it's really going to the root, because I don't think there's just the prioritization of the mental health aspect, in like children, especially, because I think that's just that's a whole field that you're talking about. You're gonna have to flesh out, and we've already talked about the chaos in Missouri politics, but ideally, if they don't, I have every intention of doing something about it myself. I'm very much I'm a very driven person for no real good reason. I think I just am. And if I, to some degree want to get involved, that's why I went to DSED, Domestic Social Economic Development. It's because I wanted to get involved in that realm of stuff. I wanted to help people in a way that I felt was tangible. I'm going to get involved like politically if I had to.
Mm-hmm. What's an example of a type of job that you think uneducated people could be trained to do that would pay decent in your area, that like they could be like, hey, like I can build a life off of this salary and I didn't have to go to school for 4 years? Like, what are some examples of those types of jobs?
So definitely like laborers, and that's definitely like male centric, right? Like this mostly for dudes, but there's a lot of like laborer opportunities, whether that be from like a garden, not a gardener, but like a landscaper perspective, or if you're talking like concrete layer. I have an uncle who lays concrete, and it doesn't make a ton of money, but it makes a lot more money than like $10 an hour. Like then the money adds up, and your needs can be met from that, especially if you're on your own. Now, if you got kids, that's another wrench, thrown into it. But a lot of laborer jobs. I'm sure that, we used to be a bigger manufacturing city, but there are still manufacturing jobs and more coming in. We are getting manufacturing jobs that are relocating here. We're a big transportation city. So, talking about putting stuff on barges, I'm sure that doesn't take a college degree to operate, not a crane, but, like a forklift or something. Warehousing, stuff like that. You can, definitely work in that.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm 100% agree with you. Do companies that have trouble hiring? Because I know it's really tough right now to get people to show up to work, or just to get people to, apply even. Do these companies like go into the bad areas and try to recruit out of there and be like, hey man, like give me like 4 weekends of your time and I'll pay you $35 an hour. Do they do that?
They partner with nonprofits, and that's one I used to work with. They partner with nonprofits, and they go in and say, okay, you're a career coach. I know you're working with these populations. We're willing to take them on, give them some job experience. They can work for us, and it's never 35 an hour. It's like maybe 15, but
no, after they get established, then
not even sure if it would get up to that, but it'd be $15 an hour, with benefits if they're full-time or whatever. But they do go in and they get the job experience. And a big issue, there are some that works great, but a big issue that comes up too is that the people who are getting the jobs, I don't think are mentally ready for the jobs. I think that and I think that's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They're like, well, people just need an opportunity. Well, some people don't have the professional skills to take advantage of that opportunity. And it's hard to have that conversation because you don't want to necessarily put the total blame on somebody. But I have seen time and time again where someone doesn't show up to work and they just fall off the grid because and I don't know what happened. And sometimes it's something that's out of their control. Like I freaked out because, my tire popped and I don't know what to do. I couldn't get to work, so I just didn't go. It's something like that. And so I mean, there's people that are going to be out there and say like, yeah, I'm willing to take on these people and give them a job or whatever. But then the people, the applicants that need the job, they're not ready. And then you've got people who are on the other side of it who don't really want to teach them either, because they just want somebody to come in and do the job. And so when you're talking about it needs more work to be done for the population who needs the help. They need more assistance to get ready. And you need the other side to be a little more understanding too, that you're taking on a population that's largely underserved, largely needs assistance, that largely, they didn't even, some of them didn't even go to an accredited school. Maybe they didn't even get a high school diploma. You don't inherently have those professional skills. You have to build them. You have to know how to talk, how to, walk the walk, talk the talk. And obviously, these people don't have those skills because they don't have a job and they haven't had a consistent job for years. So you need to break that down and say, let's work that up. And I know you could say well, that's not the job's responsibility. Well, it's somebody's, because someone needs to teach people and give them assistance. So, because it's so hard to teach yourself. And it's when you're living day to day and you don't have anything, how can you be expected to go and say, I'm going to better myself when you're barely existing from a standpoint. So I don't know. It's a lot. And I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry I talk so long-winded about stuff.
No, that's exactly what I think people want to hear is, someone who's educated about the topic, that has thoughts on how to change some stuff and some perspective and everything. I mean, you don't live in, an isolated area from the problem that you're trying to solve. I mean, you're right there in it. So
right.
You've got good perspective on everything.
I'm definitely, and then hopefully for my next internship, this is totally unrelated, but it's going to talk about this. My next internship is going to be, I'm either going to live in East St. Louis or live in Ferguson and work with their local government to help solve issues. And they're going to pay for me to live there for free, the program that I'm dealing with. But I'm all in for getting engaged in the community I'm working in. So I've got no problem in that at all. So
good for you, man. Hey guys, so if anything I just talked about upset you or made you sad or mad, well then do something about it. Call your local leaders and demand change. Chip in and help those in need. Make your community better, because communities don't get better without hard work and determination. America's a great place. It just needs some more love and pride.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.
And are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. Someone's a realtor now. Who wants to deal with a realtor they don't know when you can have me help you, right?